And it's out that selection is victory. Our time stands 8:30. I'll switch over to Studio B and say good morning to you, brother Michael Jenkins.
Good morning. Good morning to you, Tate, and good morning to everyone out there in Radio Land. Great Saturday morning. Beautiful weather. And you and me and we are here. Let's see what's going on. Well, there's a lot going on. Of course, baseball season just started this week. Major League Baseball is back in action. The NCAA men's and women's tournaments are going on as we speak. And what else? High school baseball locally. And that's what I want to focus on a little bit this morning, high school baseball, just to find out what's going on around the PD area. Who's doing what, who's playing baseball, who's playing it good, who's playing it bad, etc. So with all that said, we're going to start over in the Magic City, Florence, South Carolina. And we're going to start with West Florence High School. How's West Florence doing so far this year in baseball? Well, West Florence had an outstanding program for years. I know of them. A friend of mine's son once played for them a couple of years ago. And West Florence is doing pretty well. Right now, they sport a record of 12-1 on the season, 5-0 in the conference. And let's see where their journey brought them from. Let's see. Well, they started the season and they beat Carolina Forest by a score of 3-0. They moved on from there to East Clarendon. They beat them 11-1. They beat Hartsville 8-4. Rival South Florence, they beat them 13-5. Traveled down out I-20 to beat Lugoff Elgin 11-8. They knocked off Andrew Jackson 15-4. Got Lugoff Elgin again 5-2. Beat White Knoll 11-6 before they received their first setback of the year. And lo and behold, who would it be? South Florence Bruins, their arch rivals. They went on to continue another winning streak, beating Spring Valley 4-3, shutting out Wilson Tigers 10-0, beating the Sumter Gamecocks 2-1 and 1-0 on consecutive games. And they are scheduled for a 31st 331 showdown against the Wilson Tigers. And their season will then progress on to Blythewood on the 1st of April, Blythewood on the 3rd of April, Spring Valley on the 4th, Ridgeview on the 8th, Ridgeview again on the 10th. They tangle with South Florence again on the 11th, and that game is followed up by matches against East Clarendon. What's going on, Randy Page, my brother? Andrew Jackson, Westwood on the 29th, and then Westwood on the 1st of May. So we're really starting to get down the road right now. South Florence or West Florence is doing what West Florence does. They've always had a pretty good baseball program, and this year seems to be no exception. So with all that said, let me go to the top of this thing here again and see what else. Okay. Now we'll move on to South Florence High School and see what they have done this year. South Florence has had pretty good baseball and softball over the years. Right now they're sporting an 8-5 record, and they're also undefeated in their conference, but they're only in second place. So let's go down and see how South Florence arrived at the juncture in which they have arrived at. They started the season beating Latta 13-1. Excuse me. They knocked off Sumter 6-5, beat Wilson 14-0, lost to West Florence, lost to North Myrtle Beach 10-0, beat Lower Richland 10-0, beat Lower Richland 10-1. They lost to East Clarendon. And see, this should be a pause for everyone in Mullins and Marion's conference. East Clarendon is a 2A school. And yet, they just knocked off South Florence a few weeks ago. So, this conference baseball, all indications are it's going to be, it's going to be a little tussle going on there. After East Clarendon, they beat West Florence 2-1. Lost to Sumter 6-1, beat Darlington 4-0, beat Darlington 19-4, lost to East Clarendon again. Folks, you got to watch these East Clarendon people. They're known for baseball down there. Lost to East Clarendon 5-2, and then on the 1st, we're looking at Crestwood, back-to-back games, the 1st and the 3rd. And we're going to keep that same energy over there in Sumter as they face off. They travel to Sumter. And they travel to Lakewood. So they're playing Sumter schools on like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games. They're playing against Sumter schools. On the 11th, they will face West Florence again. And then they will travel to Hartsville. And then host Hartsville, that will be on the 15th and the 17th. Wilson Tigers. On the 21st, they will travel there to face Wilson. And it says, I don't know about the schedule, but it says on the 21st, there are 2 games to be played against Wilson. One is at Wilson, and the other is, it's like a home game. So, I mean, it is possible. Wilson and South Florence high schools aren't that far apart. I can see them doing that. I just a little bit confused as to why. But anyway, on the 29th, they take on North Myrtle Beach. We're going to move on now to some other local teams, PD area, and we're going to stop here at our friends over at Wilson. And Wilson is not off to a terrible start at 6-4, 2-1 in the conference. But it's not great. They lost to their rivals already, both of them. But Wilson, on the 27th, they played and beat Crestwood 17-1. Now let's follow their whole schedule from the beginning. They lost to Sumter 16-1. They beat Latta 7-6. They lost to South Florence 14-0. They beat Manning 15-5 and 19-13. Guess pitching wasn't that big a deal in those 2 games, huh? Marion, they beat Marion 9-0. They lost to Hartsville 15-0 and West Florence 10-0. They beat Crestwood 22-0 and 17-1. I guess Crestwood doesn't have much of a baseball thing going on over there this year, do they? And then, of course, the West Florence, Lakewood, they play those on consecutive games. And then Hartsville on the 7th, followed by Lower Richland 2 times, Darlington twice, South Florence. Wait a minute. Why don't they have South Florence here 3 times in a row? Too scheduled, I tell you. Well, after 3 games against South Florence, then they will travel to Lake City. So things are not great right now over in Tigertown, but they're doing okay. And there's hope for better. Moving on now to Hartsville. And Hartsville has always had an outstanding baseball program. Well, outstanding baseball program, outstanding football program, outstanding basketball program. Hartsville has been that guy for years and years. Q-Mungus, a.k.a. Dewani Flasher. What's up, buddy? Glad you're joining me this morning. Right now, Hartsville is looking at 8-2 and 5-0 in the region. On the 29th, which is, that's today, right? Yeah, I think it's today. No, it's tomorrow. It's yesterday. Sorry. Anyway, Hartsville will play against Sumter, or played against Sumter, and Sumter right now is struggling. Looking at what Hartsville has done this year, they started out the season with a 5-1 win over East Clarendon. They beat Carolina Forest 1-0. They then lost to West Florence and Sumter on consecutive nights. They beat Lakewood 2 times. They beat Wilson and Lower Richland by the exact same score, 15-0 on consecutive nights. And then they pasted one on Lower Richland in the next game, 21-1. So we're looking at, they've got Camden, Andrews, Jackson. They got Wilson, Crestwood 2 times, South Florence twice, Camden again, 2 times against Darlington, their rival, and Andrew Jackson to close out the season. Right up the road in Lakeview. And Lakeview is always a program to keep an eye on. I mean, baseball, even lately basketball, and of course football. But baseball is what butters Lakeview's bread. And for years now, they've been getting it done. Multiple state championships, multiple great teams. And let's see how Lakeview started this season and how they got to where they are now. They started the season beating 4 or 5A, I don't know what they are anymore, Myrtle Beach, beating them 6-1. So Lakeview don't care. They don't care what A you are. That's been a power over the last multiple years. They've always been pretty good in baseball. Fairmont was the first team, gave them their first loss of the year, and Fairmont beat them 3-2. So they then went down to Mullins for a little, fattening up, and Lakeview 12-0 and 11-0. This whole sports program has been literally a disaster for the last several years or so. But so they re-rise in baseball? Come on, Hemingway. Back at Fairmont beat them 11-1. They beat the Ladder Vikings 10-7. And then there are no scores here for Johnsonville. Carvers Bay is on the first. Ladder, Carvers Bay, Hannah Pamplico to kind of round up the season, wind out the season. Let's see what else we got. Dillon. I don't even think I took it to the next. Brian Rozelle. Good morning, Miss Johnson. How are you doing out there? How the girls' softball team doing over there in Dillon? I'm reading the baseball scores right now. It ain't looking too good for the boys' baseball team. At any rate, I always thought baseball started a little bit too early. Like, there's still icicles on the trees and stuff. Anyway, they next played against Conway, and they got beat 11-8, which ain't too bad. Green C. Floyd, they beat them 10-4. Lost to Lamar 8-4. Darlington 15-4. They beat them. They lost to Georgetown. So most of these scores I'm seeing with Dillon baseball team are pretty competitive scores. Georgetown, they beat them. They got beat up pretty good, 15 for real. And any game between Dillon and any Marlboro County team probably going to need extra security. Not for the players per se, for some of the fans. Because they had a situation in basketball this year where, the game had to be postponed or whatever and replayed in front of nobody. So, after back-to-backs against Marlboro County, they then take on Aner. Then they put to some really decent teams. You know what? I wanted to take a look at the national rankings here before I go to the local rankings. What do you think of that? The national rankings. Archbishop Moeller out of Ohio. Number 3 is Huntington Beach California. Etowah, Georgia. Stoneman Douglas, Florida. Mater Dei, California. IMG, Florida. Hewlett-Trussville, Alabama. They're ranked number 8. And these cats have played 22 games already. Teams in Florida have played a lot of games. And Georgia. 19 games, 20 games already. You've got Collierville, Tennessee. Colalen, Texas. They're ranked number 17. La Mirada, California. Owasso, it's number 24. They're out of Oklahoma. Bishop Verret out of Florida. They're the 25th ranked team. So as you can see, a lot of these teams, these baseball teams, the better ones, the top ones, are from warmer climates or California, Texas, Florida. A lot from Florida. So I guess, they get a big jump on things being that the weather is warmer. And Fort Dorchester out of Charleston is ranked number 1 in the state. They are followed by Somerville. Do I have to say more? They're ranked number 2. Oceanside Collegiate Academies jump into the fray, and they're right at the top. Then you have Blythewood, Hammond, West Florence, Shoals, Hartsville round out the top 25. And let's see. Let's take a quick look here at. Yeah, let's take a look at something a little bit even more closer to home, and that would be Class. They are followed by Abbeville, which has been a baseball power for years. They're number 2. Number 3 is Mid Carolina. Number 4, Fox Creek. Cheraw, Eau Claire. Marion is ranked number 18. Chesterfield is 19. Central, Andrew Jackson, Andrews, Lee Central, Fairfield Central, and Silver Bluff rounds out the top 10. Right now is not doing great, but they're at 5-4. But more importantly, they are 4-0 in the conference, which puts them at 2nd in the league. Let's see where Mullins is right now. Because Mullins baseball has been struggling for a while. And but they still got that state championship to their name, I bet you that. No one could take that away from them. Terrell Pinckney, what's up? Carolina Thunder. Hey, Kentucky Wildcats, bro. They got spanked by Tennessee. Man, I tell you the truth. 0-11. 0-6 in the conference. And so that's what's happening with Mullins. It ain't good, baseball-wise. As I said, they'll always have that state championship next to their names. Let's see. So now we're going to slip, for the next couple of minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament, my favorite event in the whole planet. And the Gamecocks girls almost, and I'm not a coach, so I can't really, say, but Malaya Fulwiley is on the floor all game for me, or as much as I can get her on the floor. She's a wild card. She can't be checked. And when she came in the game last night, she did some things that were just unbelievable. And I haven't watched a lot of Gamecock women's basketball. But what I seen her do last night, especially that move where she put it behind her back and did something else crazy and put up a floater, I'm telling you, without that girl, they're toast without her. And I think it seems like Dawn is still trying to hold her back a little bit. I mean, I guess that's just her style. Dawn doesn't really she doesn't open up the bank to freshmen and youngsters like that, even though Malaya's been around for 2 years now. She doesn't do that. She makes it kind of, they were in trouble last night. Big trouble. Listen, as far as the men go, it's kind of amazing how you look at the teams that are left and the teams that went into basketball prowess. They are a football conference. But with all these teams they have right now still in the big dance, the SEC has taken over. They've taken over college basketball. They own it now. Now, all they have to do is finish this thing off where one of them eventually wins the national crown. People are saying, oh, Duke. I never root for Duke, ever. There's never a year or a time or a moment where Auburn is the team that I picked to cut the nets down this year. That may or may not happen. Herman Hawkins, what's up, my brother? I don't know if they'll win, but that's who I picked. You looked at Alabama and what a force they're becoming. Well, Duke gets them tomorrow. And there's nothing I like to see from ACC supremacy, which ACC supremacy is done now. Forget it, guys. It's all over. You don't run the roost anymore. Basically, the only teams left now, Big Ten and SEC teams. You don't rule the roost anymore. So, I was happy, and I'm happy with every other team in this. That one, never even seen them. I'm hoping that they will. Anytime Duke wins,